I want to welcome my guest, who happens to be a very long-time friend of mine, and she is a rock star, and we only feature rock stars on this show. I want to welcome my friend Chelsey Pendock from Innovision Advertising to the show. So, Chelsey, thanks for coming on today.
Thanks for having me, Chris. I appreciate it. Great to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm so glad we could finally get you on and have a really cool chat. I wanted to have Chelsey on because she is really dynamic, has a lot of great information to talk about when it comes to media planning and strategy. She's definitely knows her stuff. She's definitely an expert in that arena for sure.
All right. Well, hi, everyone. I'm Chelsey Pendock. As Chris mentioned, I'm the owner, founder of Innovision Advertising. So Innovision Advertising is an advertising agency that specializes in media buying and media planning. And we mostly work with clients who are small businesses to medium-sized businesses that are advertising locally. So my background before starting Innovision was working on the media side of the industry. And I worked for NBC, Fox Television, and also in radio too. So I have an insider's perspective when it comes to pricing and positioning within the media side of the industry. But yeah, pretty much that's me in a nutshell. Our Innovision is based in New York City. And yeah, that's pretty much us.
Now, and yeah, so I mean, you've had a lot of years of experience working with a lot of different brands over the time, different size companies, whether they're smaller or larger corporations, and doing like pretty extensive media planning and strategy for them. And I know research is a very big thing about what you do, because, I don't think a lot of people really fully understand sometimes what a media planner does or a media buyer does. And oftentimes, not to slight anybody, but when you're working directly with, say, like the cable company, for instance, like where you see your local spots, or the radio station, and you're dealing one-on-one, I don't think I think people don't really fully understand what role you play in that and what the value is. Why don't you explain to everybody exactly what a media planner and media buyer does? Because I think a lot of times people are confused. They just don't exactly know what that means, what that role means.
Yeah. So essentially, if let's say you're a direct client, you own a business, you need to advertise, you're not sure where you should be advertising, but you need to advertise. Mm-hmm. What you would do, you have two options essentially in front of you. You could either call all of the media outlets yourself and get rates. And you could take a guess to see if it's, you want to try some advertising and see if it works. The other option is you can call an ad agency, someone like myself who's a media buyer, who would actually research where the best options are for you to advertise, but then take it a step further, narrow down the best options, and then negotiate those rates for you. So a lot of times when you're working with a salesperson directly for a media company, sometimes you just tend to get what they call rate card rates, which are essentially the highest rate that they're looking to get for that program or for that particular ad size. And that's not always the final price. There are different ways that you can negotiate to make sure that you're getting the best pricing. One of those ways is if you know in advance that you are going to be advertising for the whole year. When it comes to print publications, you can get a discount on a bulk discount, so like a frequency discount if you're buying 12 ads versus just a one-time standalone ad. But another thing that a media buyer does that a direct client can't do on their own, they can actually hold the media accountable and track and make sure that their advertising is actually working for them. Right. A lot of times, we'll buy, for example, if we're buying a TV program, and I know that show is going to deliver, let's say, 2 million viewers that night. But it actually only reached 1.6 million viewers that night. So now there is essentially 400,000 viewers out there that didn't see my spot that I paid for to see my spot. Right. So our job to make sure that that gets made good, that there's an opportunity for the client to run their spot again so that it actually does reach the 2 million that we purchased. So we have all the tools as an agency to make sure that our clients are actually getting what they paid for and that the media is delivering. And this is not something, because the software and all those resources that we as an agency use are rather pricey. That's not something that a direct client who owns a retail shop would necessarily invest in.
Right, right. And I think that's an important distinction too, because while you want to try to do things on your own as a business owner and find ways to save money, this is actually one of those things that I think a lot of people, I mean, if it's not something you have experience in as a business owner or as a marketing person, if you've never done it, it definitely would be of value to work with somebody like you, because this is a case where you could really be making your money and your budget go a lot further than instead of thinking and cost cutting. And the thing is, it really isn't a cost cutting thing here. I mean, it's just a matter of like working with somebody who actually knows what they're doing, and then thinking what you're doing, and actually really not making the proper investment from the most strategic point of view, and not having the data to support it. I mean, because I know that's a big thing that you guys do. I mean, it's very data driven.
Very data driven for sure. And one of the other things too, then this happens a lot with clients that we've worked with, is clients will often invest in the type of advertising where they're reading. It's a publication they're reading, or a TV show that they like to watch, or websites that they visit. They want their ads to be on those sites. Well, just because you like something a lot doesn't necessarily mean that your target audience is going to watch those things. So you could be advertising in totally the wrong place, and you'd be wasting your money. Another thing too, I mean, a lot of times, people they'll just be advertising in the wrong place, and they might be wasting a lot of money on those options. So part of one of the biggest value I think that you would get from an ad agency is strategically finding where you should be advertising, and then investing in that medium and tracking it. Another thing I forgot to mention too is the agency is they kind of come to the table as to the negotiation table with the media as representing a lot of clients, not just one client. So they have a lot of leverage, which means that they can actually get a lot of bonus spots too for their clients. So you can get a lot of bonus, which helps. And essentially bonus is just added value, free advertising that gets added, whether that be extra print ads or extra digital impressions or extra TV commercials that air. Every little thing helps to really maximize that budget.
Yeah, which is another great point. And I think that's a question I'm sure you get a lot of. And actually I know that that's a video you actually created on your YouTube channel to really help answer that question when it does come to budgeting. What does it cost? And I know, and it's always a loaded question, and I know you can say, well, how much do you have to spend? But it really does come down to like what can you budget? And the thing is, you actually have on your video, you break it down really well as to how to figure out a budget for media spending. So maybe you could talk a little bit about that, because I know that it's always a big question whenever, well, how much do I spend? How much does it really cost? But there's a way to actually spend, and what's comfortable for what you can actually spend without overextending yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a question that we get asked all the time. I mean, there is, clients do come to us and they say, this is the amount that we're approved for the year. This is our set budget. But there are certainly a lot of business owners, especially in the small and medium-sized businesses, that they're really not sure. Like, should I be spending more? Would I see a bigger return if I spent more? Is it worth it? Can we afford it? So a lot of the times how we look at it is, if you're a startup company, essentially you're going to want to invest a little bit more just to kind of get yourself out there. You're essentially starting with nothing. So in order to make an impact, you do have to invest in that. Typically, I would say the general range for a company's ad budget could be anywhere between 5 and up to 20% of their revenue. 20% is definitely on the high end. But there are some startup companies or newer companies who are looking to invest quite a bit just to make an impact, or maybe they're a seasonal business and they have to really promote something now to get that the inventory sold that they've invested in. So I would say for existing companies, you want to stick to probably the lower end of that. Maybe 5 to 12% of your annual revenue is generally a pretty good range, I would say, to try to figure out your ad budget for. But even with that, it's more about, you'd want to work with your media buyer to determine what the best options are, how much those cost, kind of look at the price ranges for everything, see what you can afford. And you've got to think long term. Nothing with advertising is ever, nor should it be, about just trying something. Let's just wait and try it. You got to have a strategy, and that should have a budget behind it.
What are you seeing? Because I mean, there's a lot of roads, and I think this confuses a lot of, just as a small business owner, and like, hey, I want to advertise. I want to invest the budget I have. So I've got my 5%, my 12% where I want to invest in a strategy. But there's so many roads to go down, right? I mean, you could be investing in a lot of digital advertising online. A lot of traditional stuff is still very effective, from billboards to, subway, taxi cab, TV, radio, all that. What are you really seeing as being most effective? And does industry, the type of business you are, really play into that?
Yeah, the type of business and who you're trying to reach are the biggest things that play into that, for sure. Yeah, I mean, there are so many different options to advertise. I mean, to get kind of specific with it, we've seen a lot of success recently for retail clients, especially everybody being home and not a lot of people going into brick and mortar as often as they were. I mean, they can still go in. But a lot of people are ordering online now. So we've actually had quite a bit of success with like Google shopping ads for retail businesses. So that's been really good. And, we've seen some big success there, but we've also seen, like, for other companies who are more service-based, we can do some like B2B targeting online. That's been really good as well. Social media. I mean, screen usage now is up and up and up. We are seeing ratings are actually soaring on TV. This has been a great year for TV advertising. It's been a great year for digital advertising. Everybody is glued to their tablets, smartphones, and their TVs, and desktops too. I mean, it's very good for that. There are still some clients that I work with that do rely a lot on print advertising, and it's actually proven to be very successful. We even have some clients that they kind of do the old school commercials on TV where you call an 800 number and you can actually get this product now, but wait, there's more. And like, it still work. And they're seeing success. So there isn't any type of media that I tend to lean towards more. It really all just depends on the client themselves, their goals, who their demographics are, who they're trying to reach. And then we kind of have to create a custom plan for them. Every client, there is no boilerplate template really for any of this. Every client is unique. They all have their own budgets. They all have their own goals. Every target audience is totally different. I also wanted to touch on your last point about how when your clients were coming to you to produce a video, and then they would come back to you and they would say, well, hey, the video just didn't work. It's not getting results. A lot of times what we see is the ad agency has to work hand in hand with the video company up front and say, these are the places where this video is going to be shown. And it has to kind of match the look and feel of the media, where it's going to be. It has to be presented to that target audience. You wouldn't want to have content in a video that's, a little too hip for maybe
Right.
the audience that's going to see that ad, and they wouldn't relate to it. So it really has to be all about the strategic planning, every step of the advertising process.
Mm-hmm.
And before you go to create any kind of creative, you have to
Right.
have the media plan in place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is, I mean, that is step one, because it's exactly it. Like, so you want to create a commercial, a radio ad, do a print ad, I mean, whatever it is, a display advertising, like, what's the goal at the end of the day? Like, what do you want to do, and who's your audience? And you got to have a plan in place for that. Otherwise, you really are just kind of wasting your money, or you're just gambling, really, without any kind of strategy whatsoever. So I think that is another important point to talk about. Again, is that having a strategy up front as to where you're going to place things and how you're going to do it, and what your audience is at the end of the day. Is it a quick, like, hey, call this number and order this right away? Or is it a set up appointment, come visit our showroom, set up a new account? I mean, it goes on and on and on. I do have a question for you too, about when it comes for things like, not-for-profit. So, I mean, obviously too, we're in the season now of, usually after Black Friday, we have Giving Tuesday and all that. And we started, and you have a lot of not-for-profits now making, and so many of them have had to really make adjustments, like everybody else has, to their businesses, where, you used to, usually in the spring, in the summer, and even in the fall, you have a lot of large galas where, they're able to do these things. And some of them have been able to successfully translate virtually, but, now you start seeing a lot of campaigns will start to happen. What's your advice for any not-for-profits out there that are really looking to, try to engage their, whether it's for volunteerism or obviously donations? What would you say would be a good mix or a good plan going into this?
Yeah, that's a great question. My advice to the nonprofits would be to stay connected. Stay connected with your followers, with the people who are donors. They want to know about you during these times. I mean, everyone cares what's happening with the organizations and the people that they care about. Stay connected, keep them up to date with newsletters, and you have to adapt during this time. If we can't have galas to raise money, there's got to be something else that you can do. I've seen really fun galas online, actually, where it was nicely done and produced, and people are getting creative during this time. So that's one thing. There could be contests, come up with innovative ideas that will engage your followers and get them to either donate or contribute in some way, but definitely stay connected. That would be my number one advice during this time.
That's really great advice. I mean, yeah, keep engaging everybody, and create content that they want to engage with. Is an awesome way to definitely stay top of mind. So that's really cool advice. So before we wrap up and everything here, I do want to talk a little bit about your YouTube channel, because you put out a lot of really quality content there, and it's a lot of great advice and a lot of good free. It's an excellent resource, and I think that answers a lot of questions that for anybody that's not in marketing or is a non-marketer, but they really want to understand it. I feel like your YouTube channel does a really great job breaking down a lot of those common questions.
Oh, good, great. Well, thank you, and just shout out to you too, and your team that actually put that all together. And I've been, ever since we launched the YouTube channel, Advice, it's called. I've gotten so many inquiries from people that were asking questions on what's the best way for them to advertise, knowing their business and this kind of thing. Even just little questions that someone might have about a negotiation strategy if they were doing this on their own. But check it out. I mean, for anyone watching that has questions, whether you're in the ad world or you own a business, or you're a marketing director, or you just kind of want to know more about how to actually maximize your budget when it comes to advertising, I think it's an impactful little 2-minute, 4-minute video that'll answer a lot of your questions.
Yeah, and oftentimes that's all you really need. You just really need to get advice from somebody else. I mean, I do it all the time. I'm always watching videos online
Yeah.
and getting answers to questions that I have because I don't know everything and I don't claim to know everything. So I'm always open to learn new things for sure, especially when I have a question about something.
Oh yeah. That's why we kind of created it, because we found that, like, even for everyday household things or whatever, gardening, any tips, I
Yeah.
would always go to YouTube just to try to get the answers to something. And there's always a video there. You can find a video for everything you're looking for. So basically, we took all of the questions that we got from clients and from anyone that we've ever gotten a question from, and we saw what the most common questions were, and we made a video for it.
Mhm.
So our goal with it is just to try to inform people and give them the best knowledge that we have, and hopefully it makes a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's like I said, I think it's strong content. So yeah, for anybody out there who's watching this now, definitely go to Chelsey's Advice channel on YouTube, and we'll have the links in the post and stuff like that. But if you just type that into YouTube, it'll pop right up. And as she said, she's created a lot of great video content that answers a lot of specific questions, and the most commonly asked questions like how much should I budget for spending, which is, I know that's a big thing of like, how much is this going to cost me at the end of the day? And and that's those are important questions, because if you've never budgeted before for an advertising campaign or anything like that, it's, I don't know, I don't know, is it as $1,000, is it $10,000? And so I think you've come up with a really good way to answer that question for a lot of folks out there.
Yeah, and advertising doesn't have to be overwhelming. It doesn't have to be scary. There are individuals out there that can help you, guide you in the right direction. And a lot of, like, ad agencies don't actually even charge their clients any fees to work with them. They get paid by compensation from the media outlets. Um,
Mhm.
so there's all different types of there's different budgets for everyone. There's resources out there. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. And I hope that those videos will be found helpful.
Yeah, I know. They are very helpful. So before I leave you, I just wanted to pick your brain a little bit more, and just for anybody out there who's watching this, just as far as like, maybe they're a little, hey, this is all new for them, and where would I even start? If I'm even thinking about this, like what would be a great tip or information you could give us to, like, where to start? I mean, should I just go watch a YouTube channel?
You can go to innovisionadvertising.com. No, you could reach out to us and we can answer your questions, certainly. But yeah, I mean, I would say if you're a brand new person to advertising, you own a business, you need to advertise, you're not sure where, you probably should start by talking to an expert to find out how they can help you, guide
Mhm.
you in the right direction. But I would start by talking to your current clients, your current customers, find out what demographics or commonalities that they all share, their interests, behavioral interests, demographics, their location. Why did they choose you over your competition? Any information, data that you can collect on your own would be very helpful in trying to determine where you should be advertising.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's really great advice. And Ron, I did just put it in the comments for you. You wanted to know if you could put the YouTube channel in here too, and he said we're great. So thank you, Rod.
Yeah. Hey, Ron. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, I think that's real. It's really great advice, though. I mean, and that oftentimes is the case. I mean, people just don't know where to start, and you get overwhelmed, and then they just wind up not doing those things. And it doesn't have to be a cumbersome process. And oftentimes, if you just ask for help, people are more than happy to give it to you.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely.
Cool. And so what you're saying is, should I start prepping my radio ad or my billboard soon? Should I just do a big rocket growth agency billboard? Just
Yeah, I know. I would say no. Don't do
nope.
that yet.
Don't just put your logo on a billboard and expect business to come in.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And also the other thing too, actually, you bring up a really good point. A lot of people often say that, like, oh, I just want something, a big splash, splashy ad. But the thing is, like, even for someone like you are primarily a B2B company.
Right.
And B2B is its strategy altogether. It's a lot more challenging than doing B2C advertising where you're trying to reach customers, because it's more targeted. You only need to reach a niche group of people. So yeah, I definitely think for you, the starting point would be talk to someone like me. We'll have a side conversation where we can kind of discover, where you really should be focusing your ad efforts. While it's super cool to see yourself on a billboard and all that, which
of course,
clients that do that and they get a lot of feedback on it, and it's great. But it's not a good investment for everybody,
Right. Well, and it goes back to something I said earlier, which is, becomes just a big vanity project for yourself. And,
right.
And hey, and if you just want a vanity thing, and then fine, that's cool. But but don't expect there to be really much conversion going on.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Listen, you're not Apple, you're not Nike. It's, you can't just stick your logo up there and call it a day, It's
right. Yeah. We all want to get to that point. It just takes a lot of effort to get there.
Yeah. Now, so one more quick question for you too is, so we talked really quick about some of the traditional stuff, because I think oftentimes, we're so focused on digital advertising, Facebook advertising, YouTube advertising, everything that we see on social, because it's where we're on our devices all the time. So of course we get bombarded with it. But I mean, as far as traditional advertising goes, I mean, traditional advertising is not dead by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, you talked about print before.
Right. Definitely not dead, for sure. I mean, people still there's a good amount of people that did not cut their cords yet. They all still have, some people still hold on to that cable TV.
Right.
The thing about advertising is the traditional hasn't gone away, but it has adapted. So now even a lot of these companies who, like cable companies or broadcast channels, who normally have their NBC, ABC, CBS's, Foxes of the world, they're now actually offering digital advertising products too. They're offering OTT, which is streaming advertising. So anyone with a Roku or Fire Stick or Apple Play, Apple TV, you can watch streaming TV through that. So these media companies are adapting. And as much as you would think print advertising would just be dead and gone,
right?
It's not. It's really not. They still have a loyal following. There are people who pay to have these magazines delivered to their mailboxes. There are people who take the freebie magazines at places. It depends really on who you're trying to reach.
Right.
Newsprint does tend to skew a little older. If you're trying to reach a younger person, maybe you'd want to go more on the Instagram route or something. Older people, maybe print, TV, nightly news, that kind of a thing. But definitely traditional media is still definitely alive and well. And digital is doing very well too. It really just depends on who your audience is. And with all the different options out there now, you can probably get yourself a nice rate too.
Yeah, and it's funny too, because it's kind of cool. I mean, the world of podcasting is just, it's unbelievable. I mean, I have a podcast. You're working on a podcast, and it's great when you listen to other podcasts, and it's just that people doing reads, commercial reads on these podcasts, and it's so old school, and I love that. I love hearing. Listen to a podcast and they're like, hey, this is brought to you by so-and-so. And they do their little read. And then it's happens in the middle of the podcast. And, and I don't think people realize how effective that is, because I do not skip over that stuff. When I'm listening to a podcast, I just, I listen to it straight through, and, to be able to sponsor or, have an ad in a well-received podcast that has a lot of subscribers is definitely, I don't think people should take it for granted at all. and there's and that's obviously that's another thing that you can do, right? I mean, as part of
Yeah.
what you do is that's would be in your network of services. You would say, hey, I want to be on these podcasts as well as like a radio or a digital campaign on Instagram and so on and so forth. And that's something you can definitely arrange for people.
Oh yeah, I mean we do podcast advertising, streaming advertising, digital,
YouTube ads, all that.
All the time. I mean, we've even purchased ads in bathrooms before and gyms. I mean, there is nowhere where we can't advertise. We will find a way to advertise.
We will find a way.
We will find a way.
Yeah.
The other thing too, though, about like what you're saying with the podcast advertising is that just adds like a whole level of credibility to that advertiser. They got mentioned a live read in that popular broadcast. I mean, it's not cheap, but you're paying for that credibility. I mean, it does add. There's something about like a TV commercial, or if you see an ad before your movie starts in the movie theater, just seeing it on the big screen on your TV in a radio ad, it just does add a level of distinction, credibility to that company.
Yeah, agreed. And it's and it's cool when you see it too. So
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Well, awesome. Well, I think that just about does it for us. We had a lot of fun, talked about a lot of great stuff. I hope everybody watching here today got a lot of great value out of listening to Chelsey. And of course, Chelsey, where can everybody reach out to you if they want to talk to you on top of the YouTube channel, which I did put in the links? So it's under Innovision Advertising. Sorry, I think I said Chelsey. Search Chelsey Pendock, but if you search Innovision Advertising on YouTube, Advice comes up.
Yeah. I guess if anybody has any questions for me or they want to reach out to me, my contact information is on my website, innovisionadvertising.com. And feel free, reach out anytime, ask us any questions. We'd be happy to help.
Great. Excellent. And I want to thank everybody once again for watching another episode of Rocket Live. And I want to thank Chelsey for coming on today. And we will see you guys next time.